Discover 9 spine-chilling true Oregon horrors, sinister secrets exposed from the haunted depths. Lisa Hargrove had always heard the stories whispered among the townsfolk, those dark, twisted tales heavy with unspeakable dread. But nothing could prepare her for the nightmare that lurked just beyond the fences of her sleepy Timberwood neighborhood. The town's shallowness concealed layers of terror, and when evening fell, shadows drew in close, clutching at her heart and spirit. She felt them watching, lurking behind those curtains like predators poised to pounce. Each creak of her house sounded like a warning, each rustle of leaves just a harbinger of unspeakable horrors. After yet another night serving coffee and pie at the old diner, she trudged home, exhaustion gnawing at her bones. The quiet streets, once comforting, now seemed alive with hidden menace. The laughter of children at the playground now felt like a terrifying echo bouncing off the walls of her memories, whispering to her fears. It was then that the tale of Mr. Ellis nagged at her thoughts, a man wrapped in agreeable smiles that masked something sinister, a supposed guardian to the town's children with intentions that weren't so benign. He was the buffer in this glossy surface they all wore. As Lisa passed his home, a chill ran down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that his warm front held icy depths. The unsettling stories about Mr. Ellis crept into her mind, igniting a curiosity she couldn't shake off. Whispers of his odd gardening habits and unsettling favoring of children began unraveling in her mind. She'd heard it all: the children who went home late after friendly chats, somehow quieter than before. She brushed them off, convinced they were just the outlandish yarns of a town that thrived on gossip. But deep inside, fear had started to nestle into her gut. What if those tales bore truth? The intensity of that thought quickened her pace. Then came the panic, a sickening jolt in her stomach that had her heart racing. She stepped through her kitchen door, and the silence was too loud. Timmy, her little lifeline, was gone. Lisa's breath hitched. She retraced his steps through the backyard to the twisted old oak where he'd played so many times. His absence turned the world into a swirling torrent of dread. Memories of missing children washed over her like icy water, twisting her mind into dark corners where whispered secrets grew fangs. She forced herself to the Ellis household, her fists clenched tight. The door opened, revealing Mr. Ellis with that disarmingly wide grin plastered across his face. But now, it felt predatory. Rather than providing comfort, his friendly tone dripped with something darker. "I'd love to help," he said, his voice too smooth. The words clung to the air like a suffocating blanket. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. Lisa backed away, tracing the crumbling edge of his invitation with shallow breaths. Mr. Ellis leaned closer, his eyes narrowing, exuding a charm that felt more like a warning. Each passing moment deepened the darkness of Timberwood, where gardens bloomed fresh while secrets twisted rancid beneath the surface. She deduced that trust in a place like this was a silent pact, a dangerous understanding masked with smiles. With every tick of the clock, she felt hope slip further away. As if a clockwork timer was tick-tocking toward an undefined horror, her resolve sharpened. She would uncover the truth before shadows fully swallowed Timmy, before Timberwood's darkness consumed her too. What had been fabricated into quaint bedtime stories she now realized were screams drowned beneath layers of silence. This was a chase against time and fear. How far would she sink into the underbelly of Timberwood's secrets to bring her son back? Lisa turned sharply, the effects of Mr. Ellis's gaze lingering like a ghost. Her instincts screamed at her to run, to flee and never look back. But Timmy was out there, and she couldn't leave him behind. Not now, not ever. Sweat gathered at her brow as she sprinted toward the backyard, her heart pounding like a war drum. She scanned the dimly lit yard, shadows blending with the fading dusk. Every rustle, every whisper of the wind sounded more ominous, more threatening than before. A neighbor's dog barked in the distance, the sound striking her like a beacon, urging her forward. She paused at the old oak, its gnarled branches stretching out like skeletal arms. "Timmy!" she yelled, hope clawing for breath in her throat. Silence swallowed her call. She didn't care about the whispers anymore. The tales of children and Mr. Ellis collided like a freight train in her chest. Were those stories just tales? Or were they warnings? Every instinct told her she needed to confront this dark web that had wrapped around her life. Pulling out her phone, she felt a grim sense of purpose. She needed help, and she needed it fast. "Damn it," she muttered as she realized the battery was dead. Perfect. The device that could saved her was useless now, a dead weight in her pocket. Panic clawed at her throat. "Focus, Lisa," she urged herself, gripping the cool bark of the tree to steady her shaking hands. She had to think. Deciding to check the other children's homes, she bolted down the street. Timmy's friends were mostly in the nearby houses, robust families with warm porches that had always felt welcoming. Would they believe her? As she pounded on the first door, a familiar face appeared, Mrs. Baker, wide-eyed and disheveled. "Have you seen Timmy?" Lisa gasped, desperation hollowing out her words. "No. Is he missing?" Lisa's heart sank as Mrs. Baker's expression morphed from confusion to dread. "You haven't heard then," she whispered, her voice shaking. Both women exchanged glances, words hanging like frozen air between them. But before Lisa could spit out another question, a scream pierced the night, a spine-chilling sound that sliced through the neighborhood's quiet. Mrs. Baker clutched Lisa's arm, fear pooling in her eyes. That came from behind the Ellis house. A grim resolve took root as Lisa bolted toward the sound with Mrs. Baker reluctantly at her heels. The shadows stretched long and dark across the street. Lisa pressed on, fear morphing into adrenaline. She couldn't hesitate, couldn't let darkness claim another life. When they reached the narrow alley beside the Ellis abode, the air shifted heavy, cloying like the town was holding its breath. A flickering light peeked from behind a fence. With a throbbing heart, Lisa edged closer, the world around her coming to a sharp focus. And then, she spotted him. Timmy. No, not alone. A group of children gathered, faces pale, expressions dazed, as if drawn by some unseen force. They stood at the threshold of the yard. Mr. Ellis emerged, his expression tight, fingers twitching at his sides. The way the children encircled him felt wrong, too wrong. "Timmy!" she cried out, but the spell held the children in thrall. They turned slowly, lifeless eyes reflecting nothing, only that wide, haunting smile of Mr. Ellis. Lisa felt the ground tremble beneath her. Was he taking them? Was he turning them into shadows? In that moment, the world narrowed down. She had to reclaim her son. Taking a deep breath, an old instinct kicked in. This was no longer about running away. She had to confront the terror. "I'm coming for you, Timmy!" she screamed, her voice breaking the spell, but the chains of the unknown tightened, reality slipping through her fingers. What darkness had already taken hold of Timberwood? As Lisa took a step forward, the horrid truth lingered. Something dark was watching, waiting, deciding how far it wanted to drag her down with it. What did Mr. Ellis truly want from their innocent laughter? Would Lisa dare step into the abyss? Lisa's heart raced louder than ever as she stepped through the shadows. She felt a pull, something both sinister and magnetic drawing her closer to the group of entranced children. Timmy stood there, a vacant expression painted across his face, and it cut through her like a blade. She couldn't let him slip deeper into whatever dark trap Mr. Ellis had spun. "Timmy!" Her voice echoed off the alley walls, desperate and hoarse. The other children turned their heads in unison, their eyes hollow, devoid of life. In that moment, an icy dread slithered up her spine. It was as if Mr. Ellis had squeezed the very essence of childhood joy from them, trapping their laughter within his sick, twisted grin. Damar. Ellis moved closer, dark shadows clinging to his form like a second skin. "They're safe here, Lisa," he said, voice smooth and syrupy, trickling through the air. "Better than out there, floating in the uncertainty." Let go of the need to control, embrace the quiet. Each word dripped with malice, reverberating through her bones. Panic surged inside her. You're lying. She shouted, anger battling fear. You're doing something to them. He tilted his head, and for a fleeting second, something glinted in his eyes, a flash that reminded her of the darkness scraping against the edges of her mind. It depends on how you define peace. Despite the terror pulsing in her veins, she took another step forward. Timmy. Snap out of it. Wrapping her hands around his small shoulders, she shook him gently. Look at me. It's Mom. I'm right here. You have to fight him. Timmy blinked, confusion flickering within those once bright eyes, and for a moment, she saw her son. But then, he stared at Mr. Ellis, those lifeless eyes widening again, as if the spell tightened its grip. No, she whispered, despair closing in. The enormity of losing him, of losing all these children, approached like a storm. Suddenly, the flickering light intensified, casting long shadows that danced malevolently across the ground. A chorus of whispers floated in the air. They were calling, each word layered with entreaty and echoing fear. The other children began to sway, caught in Mr. Ellis's thrall, an unsettling rhythm fueled by unseen forces. Mrs. Baker darted to Lisa's side, her face a mask of fear and defiance. What can we do? She yelled, eyes darting around as if looking for escape routes. We can't let him. A rattle of chains echoed from behind them, cutting her off. Both women turned to see dark tendrils begin to seep from the shadows, twisting and writhing like snakes unleashed. The air became thick with dread as the chains rattled ominously, their presence a promise of doom. Enough! Lisa screamed, frustration and fear melding into a primal roar. You want them? You'll have to take me first. Timmy's eyes flickered again, a ghost of recognition breaking through. Mom, he murmured, and that word ignited a fire within her. With a surge of determination, she pushed back against the encroaching shadows. Stand together! She shouted to Mrs. Baker, the ground beneath them shuddering, as if in response to her defiance, the force pressing against her intensified, a suffocating weight determined to extinguish her spirit. Lisa reached out for the strength she thought she had lost, gathering her resolve as tendrils shot towards her. We're not afraid. She screamed, locking eyes with Timmy, willing him to break free. But just as hope flickered like a candle in the wind, darkness loomed in, wrapped its tendrils around her feet, pulling her toward an abyss filled with screams and whispers. What more was hidden beneath the facade of Timberwood? What did the darkness truly want from her? And as the shadows began to close in, she wondered if it was too late to save her son and herself. The dark tendrils coiled tighter around Lisa's ankles, dragging her down into the cold earth that seemed to pulsate beneath her. She pulled against them with a desperation she didn't know she possessed. The ground was a living thing, eager to swallow her whole, eager to steal her voice and bury her in silence. Each second felt like an eternity, the weight of despair thick as fog. Mom! Fight him! Timmy's voice broke through the haze of terror, a light flickering against the dark of her own thoughts. Yet, it danced on the edge of fading, and the panic in her chest magnified. She could feel him slipping away again. With a surge of adrenaline, Lisa yanked her feet free, the darkness retreating just enough to give her a fleeting moment of relief. She met Timmy's gaze, but now something more twisted lurked behind Mr. Ellis's smile. You're getting in the way, Lisa, he hissed, his voice like ice flowing over her skin. Let me show them a world beyond worry, beyond their insufferable little lives. No. They don't want that. She stepped forward, heart pounding in her ears. Timmy! Come back! Suddenly, the shadows writhed ferociously, and more chains rattled, echoing sinister promises of entrapment. The whispers rose, a cacophony of anguished cries that pressed in on her like a thunderstorm. Let go, they chanted, voices intertwining and merging, sinister lullabies that clawed at the security of her mind. Mrs. Baker grabbed Lisa's arm, her own eyes wide with fear. What do we do? She hissed, looking around for an escape that didn't seem to exist. Focus! Lisa shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. We need to break his hold. We can't let him take them. Timmy's expression was a battle of fear and trance, and for the briefest of moments, he shook his head as if waking from a dream. Mom, he whispered again, and hope ignited within her. But then darker shadows gathered behind Ellis, shapeless and swirling. They pulsated like a heartbeat, hungry and alive. The ground trembled, the air electrified. An otherworldly chill settled around them, curtain-like, stifling any lingering resolve. In an act of defiance, Lisa stepped in front of Timmy, arms wide as if to shield him from the grotesque illusion. I want to let you have them. She shouted, voice hoarse, yet steady demar. Ellis laughed, a sound that sent shivers cascading down her spine. So brave, so foolish. The shadows surged forward, plowing into her like a wave of darkness intent on dragging her away, then she felt it, a flicker of the children's energy, a tingle of something pure. They were not merely shadows, they were alive within the chaos, struggling against their own nightmares. Fight with me. You can break free. Lisa bellowed, her voice now joined by Mrs. Baker's steady resolve. Remember who you are. The children's eyes flickered, one by one, the hollowed glaze becoming luminous once more, a glint of defiance caught in their young gazes. But would it be enough? The shadows coiled tighter around them, ethereal shrieks echoing in victory through the night air. I will not let you escape. Mr. Ellis's voice boomed, filled with ancient fury. As he surged forward, Lisa felt the shadows begin to pull her back, the chains binding her to despair. You have to choose. She implored, fighting against the encroaching void. Choose your light. And with that, she felt the fire they all possessed ignite. The darkness wavered against their collective will. Lisa held on, determined to reclaim her son, refusing to sacrifice the children, but as the shadows undulated, a sinister truth loomed just beyond comprehension. What if that fire wasn't enough? What if the darkness concealed more than just a desire to destroy? In that moment, Lisa's fight felt like it was on a knife's edge, teetering between light and encroaching shadows. The question hung thick in the air, could they truly turn the tide, or would the night swallow them whole? The shadows quivered, a living darkness flinching from their unity. Lisa felt the heat grow, not just within her chest but shared among the children, a flicker of hope igniting like a match in the dark. We can do this. She cried, straining against the powdery grip of despair, the words driven by a primal instinct to survive, but Mr. Ellis grinned wider, a vicious glee dancing in his hollow eyes. You think they can resist? They're mine already. Watch as I take their essence, piece by piece. His laughter rang sharp, slicing through the mounting dread like broken glass. The chains binding Lisa scrambled in response, keeping her locked in a vice of despair, gnawing at her will. She gritted her teeth, eyes darting between Timmy and the other children, their faces filled with a mix of fear and growing resolve. Remember. Love. Family. Lisa shouted, her voice unwavering amidst the chaos. Whatever strength they had left, they had to draw on it. They had to remember, with every frantic heartbeat, she willed them to fight against the shadows subsuming their memories, their innocence. Timmy blinked, the glaze of obsession flickering like a dying bulb. Mom. He pleaded. Mom, I want to go home. Then come with me. Fight back. Lisa thrust her arms out to him, the connection between mother and son almost tangible amid the chaos. That flicker of recognition in his eyes spurred the energy swirling around them. The other children mirrored his struggle, their faces showing confusion and pain that began to warp into determination. They reached toward Lisa, arms stretching, fingers brushing against her own in an ethereal tangle of hope. Now. She urged, gritting her teeth against the piercing cold. All together. Together. Echoed Timmy, his voice threading with the others, harmonizing against the dissonance of the looming shadows. A surge rippled through the air, the warmth collected between them igniting a flare that banished some of the oppressive darkness. The shadows recoiled, a hissing sound resonating from beyond. Mr. Ellis's expression twisted into rage. Foolish children. You cannot fight the inevitable. With a guttural roar, he unleashed a torrent of darkness like a tidal wave crashing down upon their fragile unity. Lisa felt the grip around her tighten, but she wouldn't let go, she wouldn't back down. Stay with me. She screamed over the roar. Remember who you are. But the shadows surged, encircling them as they strained against the rising currents of terror. Lisa could feel them pulling her deeper, deeper into despair. She gasped as the ghostly tendrils began to sting like barbed wire against her skin. And then, with an explosion of sheer force, the children leaped forward, chanting in unison. We are light. We are love. We are more than shadows. The very earth trembled beneath them. The shadows writhed, transforming the air into a suffocating fog, taunting and whispering of their doom. Join us, they beckoned, their voices a siren song laced with betrayal. Let it go. Surrender to the night. Through the din, Lisa caught sight of the amulet hanging from Mr. Ellis's neck, glowing with an unnerving light. There. That's the source. She gasped, heart racing. If they could reach it, Timmy. You lead them. Lisa barked. You're the spark, go for it. The moment hung, frozen in time as the children surged forward, driven by an instinctual need to reclaim their lives. But as they moved, a chilling realization struck Lisa. What lurked beyond the shadows? What awaited them once they broke free? Are you ready? She thought, dread clutching her as she saw the darkness begin to swarm again, more powerful than before. They had to be, the price of failure was too steep. Would they unleash something worse? And with that lingering doubt echoing in her mind, she took a breath, firming her resolve. Let us break this. As they charged, a sickening crack split the air. Was it the sound of liberation, or was it the fracture of something far more sinister gaining strength? The crack echoed louder, resonating through the thickening mists. Lisa felt it deep in her bones, each pulse striking with the weight of a dire omen. The children were already moving, driven by a unity that defied the darkness swirling around them. But the air felt heavier, each breath hard-won as despair clawed at their throats. Don't look back. She shouted, her voice strained but fierce. Just keep going. She felt the rush of bodies, small but resolute, pushing forward as if the very act of movement could shield them from the encroaching doom. Mom! I see it. Timmy's voice pierced through the veil of chaos, tinged with a flicker of triumph. There's light ahead. Hope surged, but so did fear. What creature might lurk just beyond the reach of that light? Lisa gritted her teeth as shadows slithered closer, snatching at her ankles, threatening to pull her back into the abyss. Suddenly, Mr. Ellis's shriek shattered their focus, echoing like shattering glass. No. You can't. I want to let you escape. He stretched out his hand, and the shadows writhed in response, a panic born from a desperate need to reclaim their prey. Black tendrils whipped toward them with vicious speed, cold as death, hungry to extinguish the fire of hope. The children stumbled under the weight of it all, but Lisa felt their collective heartbeat deep in her chest. Hold on. Remember what you fought for. She dug her heels into the ground, the rough surface grounding her as she leaned into Timmy, wrapping her arms around him tightly. In that moment, the shift was palpable. Together, they formed a barrier against the encroaching darkness. The shadows hesitated, flickering like candle flames, caught between the warmth radiating from the children and the cold grasp of their master. Now. Lisa urged. Push. They charged as one, the intimacy of shared strength igniting a blaze that spread through the crowd. Their cries melded into one thunderous roar. We are more. Fools. Mr. Ellis's laughter transformed into something hollow and ghastly. You'll join me soon enough. But Lisa clenched her jaw, forcing the shadows away as she surged forward, her eyes fixed on the glowing amulet. It glimmered like a beacon, its pulsing light radiating odd warmth against the biting cold. Just a little closer. But then, time seemed to splinter. A sudden darkness exploded from the amulet, bursting forth in a blinding flash. Lisa felt herself pulled deeper into the heart of the void. The children screamed, their unity vibrating with fear, panic blossoming across their faces. "What is happening?" Timmy shouted, terror creeping back into his voice. Suddenly, the shadows twisted, revealing horrors she couldn't comprehend. Faces, grotesque and familiar, shifted in and out of view, whispering cold secrets that sank into her heart. Friends, family long lost turned to watch her, their eyes wide and distant, as if they were part of the darkness itself. "Timmy!" Lisa cried, her heart dropping. "Stay with me. Don't listen." Desperately, she tried to reach through the fog, feeling the warmth of his tiny hand clutch hers. But the faces twisted into despair, chains wrapped around their limbs dragging them back into the void. Something inside her cracked, a glimmer of doubt piercing her resolve. What if they couldn't escape this time? What if the shadows were stronger than her love? Just as she began to lose herself in despair, a memory ignited deep within her. A soft summer day, laughter floating through the air as they flew kites together, Timmy's small hands creating something beautiful. The warmth surged back, and she spoke the words she had almost forgotten, her voice rising above the demonic whispers. "Remember. Love always conquers." Timmy's grip tightened around her hand. "Mom." His voice thundered through the chaos, like a lighthouse drawing them closer to the shore of sanity. The shadows recoiled, the weight pushing against them weakening, but just then, a terrible truth unfolded. What Mr. Ellis had unleashed was not just shadows but the very essence of their fears. With one last glance at the dark chasm ahead, Lisa knew they were at a precipice. What would be born from this reckoning? And could love truly shatter the confines of despair? She steeled herself as they charged forward, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, hearts pounding, breaths quickening, and as they broke through the last line of darkness, a blinding beam of light enveloped them. But would it hold the promise of salvation or a nightmare reborn? The light swirled around them, a frenetic dance of brilliance that promised safety, yet felt tainted with malevolence. Lisa squinted, the glare intensifying, forcing her to shield her eyes. Where were they now? Dread seeped into her veins as shadows loomed just outside the shimmering barrier, glaring, watching, waiting. "Timmy!" she shouted, panic spilling into her voice. "Stay close." The instant the light enveloped them, it fractured, spilling forth wave after wave of blinding luminescence. As her vision cleared, they found themselves standing on a desolate landscape, a vast grey field dotted with blackened trees, their roots exposed like skeletal fingers clawing at the earth. No warmth of the sun reached this place, an unholy chill wrapping itself around them. "Mom! What is this?" Timmy's small voice trembled, his eyes darting wildly as fear clawed at his heart. I don't know," Lisa stammered, the ground crackling beneath her feet. "Just, keep moving." But as they stepped forward, each footfall echoed eerily, reverberating into a world that seemed to mock their existence. The silence was suffocating. There were no birds, no rustles of critters, only the oppressive weight of emptiness pressing in like a hand gripping her throat. Then, a whisper floated by, a tantalizing sound that was at once familiar and terrifying. It called her name. Lisa, the voice wound around her, coiling tightly as memories surged back, nightmarish visions of her childhood flooding her thoughts. "Stay together." There was urgency in her voice now, a primal need to keep her child safe. But the shadows danced just beyond the edges of her perception, teasing her with phantoms of lost faces, echoes of laughter twisted into cries. "Mom!" Timmy tugged at her sleeve, his face pale, eyes wide with dread. "What if it finds us? What if stop?" She snapped, frustration and fear mixing in a volatile cocktail within her. But deep down, she felt the same fear pulsing through her, a chilling resonance that threatened to swallow her whole. "In this place, love cannot shield us," a voice croaked from the shadows, slithering out like smoke. It was Mr. Ellis, or what was left of him. His features contorted into a grotesque mask of rage and despair, his shape flickering, caught between tangible and intangible. You are trapped in the reflection of your memories. The ground trembled under her feet, reminding her of the promises they once made, the life they lived before this nightmare unraveled. The whispers came again, clawing at her sanity. You can't escape. Remember the darkness that lurks within you. No. Lisa fought back, clenching her fists. We are not your puppets. A flicker of resolve ignited within her, and she looked at Timmy, her unwavering love returning like a steady flame. We have to keep moving. A churning fog began to roll in, visibility fading as more faces emerged from the depths, reflections of herself and Timmy, distorted and twisted. They laughed with venomous glee, their eyes hollow, filled with sorrow and resentment. Look at what you may become, look what you have done. They jeered, their voices melding into a cacophony that echoed around her, ramping up the tension, pushing her closer to madness. Ignoring their taunts, she focused on Timmy, his small hand fragile in hers. They forged ahead, an incongruous surge of determination shining like a beacon against the darkness. And then, before them, a door materialized, its frame glistening with an enticing aura. It's a way out. Timmy cried, hope igniting in his voice, but was it really salvation? Or another trap laid by Mr. Ellis to ensnare them forever? The door creaked, begging to be opened, its presence suffocating and alluring. Shadows writhed, clamoring to pull them back into their twisted realm, and Lisa's heart thundered in her chest. What awaited them on the other side? Was it freedom, or perhaps a deeper descent into darkness? They had to decide quickly. Would they dare to face whatever lies ahead, even if it meant risking everything? Mom, we need to go. Timmy urged, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling with uncertainty. With a final breath, she tightened her grip around his hand, knowing that everything could change in the next heartbeat. They stepped toward the door, their fate hanging in the balance. What emerged would weave their story further into the web of horror that surrounded them, and she felt the shadows stir in anticipation. Lisa hesitated, the shimmering door hovering before them like a cruel omen. Timmy's small hand trembled in hers as they flickered between desperation and hope. She could feel the shadows lurking, eager for their uncertainty, and the whispers grew louder, swirling with darkness that encased their souls. Mom, please, Timmy pleaded, eyes wide like saucers, as if the mere thought of staying behind was worse than stepping through that cursed portal. You're right, she murmured, summoning the remnants of her courage. She exhaled, steeling herself against the icy grip of fear. We have to go. The door swung open. A gust of stale air rushed out, carrying with it a scent that clawed at her lungs, sweet and rotten, the scent of decay. Struggling to breathe, she stepped inside, dragging her son behind her. As they crossed the threshold, the world around them shifted violently. They stumbled into a dimly lit corridor, walls oozing with a blackish sludge that seemed alive, pulsating as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The glow of flickering bulbs cast grotesque shadows, twisting into phantoms that beckoned and taunted. Lisa tightened her grip on Timmy, heart racing, every instinct screaming at her to turn back. Where are we? Timmy quivered, glancing around at the grotesque surroundings. I don't know, but we need to keep moving, she whispered, ignoring the shadows that darted across their path. Each whisper echoed with a haunting melody, weaving through the air like smoke. Faint echoes of laughter danced around them, warm and inviting yet tinged with an underlying malice that made her skin crawl. She pushed forward, the corridor stretching indefinitely before them, filled with doors that beckoned with hollow promises. Each door had a number, each one representing a lost memory. Look, Mom. Timmy pointed, eyes wide with a mixture of fascination and dread. That one looks like ours. Her breath hitched. It was a door she recognized. 21, the number burned in her mind, memories flooding back from a time she wanted desperately to forget. The laughter. The joy. The day they lost everything. Don't look, Timmy, Lisa warned, but he tugged her closer, curiosity cementing his fear. Mom, please. I want to see. No. The intensity of her voice shocked them both. We have to keep moving. We can't let it get to us. But his gaze was fixed, a mix of sorrow and longing painted across his small face. The whispers growled louder, twisting her stomach, dragging her thoughts back to that fateful day. Shadows the size of giants rose from the dark, slinking closer, black tendrils stretching towards them. Turn around. Timmy screamed. It's coming. Lisa's heart plummeted as she whipped around, eyes scanning the corridor. A figure loomed at the end, a shadow with no form, just a silhouette swirling with darkness, a gaping maw promising warmth against the chill. Stay back. She shouted, fear shaking her voice, but it didn't listen. It moved closer with an unnatural glide, echoes of her name rasping out in a blend of familiar tones, some menacing, other laced with sorrow. You can't escape your past, Lisa, it hissed, the air thickening with dread, emotions crashing over her like a wave. You belong to the shadows. Timmy shrieked, and Lisa, filled with a fury stronger than fear, pulled him close. The ground beneath them shuddered as she turned back towards the door, the only escape now. They stumbled backward into its maw, hoping the shadows wouldn't close in before they slipped away. As she pushed through, the swirling darkness tangled behind them, reaching, clawing, desperate to reclaim what it lost. Mom, is it gone? Timmy's voice quavered, the boy desperately looking up into her eyes. Lisa faltered, heart hammering as she felt a cold finger brush against her spine, the whispers cursing her. Not yet, she whispered, and together they stepped through the door, taking them wherever it may lead next, but the corridor shifted again, a new door emerging before them, blood-red and pulsing. Whispers grew like wildfires. Whatever lay behind, she could feel it waiting, watching. Mom. Timmy said, dread creeping into his voice. What if it's worse? All she had was silence. No answers. Just shadows writhing, memories lurking, and the door beckoning them closer, a dreadful temptation that threatened to consume them whole. What horrors awaited on the other side? Would they dare to open it? The door loomed before them, its crimson surface slick with an unknown sheen. Lisa's breath hitched in her throat, her instincts screaming for her to turn back, yet the relentless urge to protect Timmy pushed her forward. She could feel the darkness swirling around them as if the very air thickened with malevolence, tightening like a serpent coiling around its prey. Mom, I don't like this. Timmy's tiny voice trembled, drawing her attention back to his frightened face, illuminated only by the flicker of dying bulbs overhead. Just hold my hand tight, she whispered, squeezing his small fingers, desperately trying to inject strength into him. We'll get through this together. Timmy nodded, but she could see the uncertainty lacing his innocent eyes. The whispers intensified, a chaotic symphony of voices merging into a cacophony that hummed through the corridor. Each syllable felt like cold fingers tracing her spine, pulling her backward, warning her not to take another step. Are you ready? She asked, feigning confidence. He nodded again, but it was a mere flicker of resolve. Closing her eyes for a brief moment, Lisa tried to bolster her spirit. With one swift motion, she pushed the door open, its hinges creaking like the groans of a dying beast. What lay beyond sent a chill cascading down her spine. The room was vast, a cavernous hall filled with mirrors, each reflecting distorted images that twisted and warped. The reflections were of moments long past, memories that clawed at her heart with relentless fingers. She recognized the laughter of a familiar face, but it wasn't joyous, it was mocking. Timmy, don't look at the mirrors. She yanked her son away from one that showed their happiest day, the image shattering like glass to reveal darkness within, but it was too late. The whispers erupted in a frenzy, shrieking her name, each echo a dagger in her mind. Look at what you've lost, Lisa. What could have been? The voices taunted, weaving around her like tendrils, pressing against her temples. You are not worthy of joy. No. She shouted, her voice a mix of fear and fury. We want to stay here. We're not yours. Mom. Timmy whimpered, looking at her, his eyes round with fear as a shimmering image approached them through the mirrors, a twisted reflection of Lisa, beckoning, with a smile that made her stomach churn. "Stay close." She pulled Timmy against her side, feeling panic mounting with each flicker of light that cast grotesque shadows dancing along the walls. Suddenly, the mirrors quivered, rippling like water. A monstrous figure surged forward from the deepest reflection. Slimy tendrils shot out, writhing, reaching for Timmy with dreadful intention. Lisa felt the grip of dread lock around her throat as she shielded her son, panic surging. There'd be no escaping this. "Run!" she screamed, twisting away from the horrors. They needed to find another exit, another door. The shadows were closing in fast, crawling across the marble floor, hungry for their souls. They dashed toward a faint light pulsing in the distance. Each step felt heavier, as if the floor itself conspired to drag them back. The laughing voices grew louder, mocking her exhaustion, feasting on her fear. As they neared the light, another door appeared, ajar with a sliver of brightness breaking through the suffocating gloom. Lisa pushed Timmy ahead, her heart racing with each step into the illuminated unknown. "Don't look back!" Lisa yelled, forcing herself to turn, feeling the dark breath of the figure behind them. Timmy's footsteps faded, the door inching closer with her pulse quickening. "Mom, help!" His voice pierced her heart, sending a fresh surge of adrenaline through her veins. The laughter crescendoed as she glanced back, her resolve strengthening amidst rising terror. In that very moment, the door swung wider, revealing a light that promised safety yet felt sinister in its allure. Would it truly lead them to salvation, or was it another trap laid by the shadows? "Timmy!" she shouted as she lunged toward the door, but the darkness writhed, pulling at their limbs. Lisa's mind raced, heart pounding a furious tempo against her ribcage. Whatever was waiting behind that glowing door, it would not be the end of their terror. What's next? She gasped as she reached for the handle, but something gripped her ankle, cold and unyielding, holding her fast. "Not yet," Lisa echoed that haunting voice, and she realized their fight was only just beginning. The darkness thickened around them, smothering any remnants of light as Lisa struggled against the icy tendrils that wrapped around her ankle. Panic surged through her, a primal instinct to break free clawing at her chest. "Timmy!" she screamed, her voice strained with desperation. He was behind her, swallowed by shadows, and all she could think about was pulling him back to safety. "Mom! Help me!" he cried, his small voice barely cutting through the chaos. In that moment, Lisa felt something in her snap. Motherhood ignited like a wildfire within her. She wouldn't let the darkness take him. Not now, not ever. Clenching her fists, she drew on the last reserves of strength she had. "You won't take us!" she roared, pulling hard against the grip that clawed at her foot. Timmy's small form flashed through her mind, his laughter echoing against the parade of horrors. "Mom! Please!" With every ounce of willpower surging within her, she focused on that vivid image of her son, his warm smile cutting through the shadows like a beacon. "I'm coming for you!" she shouted, forcing herself forward. All at once, the grip on her ankle released, and she stumbled into the light flooding through the door. But as she crossed the threshold, it shimmered, warping as if it were alive. The air shifted, heavy with tension, and then the door slammed shut behind her. Lisa landed on the floor, hard. The world around her morphed into a blinding white void. No more shadows. No more taunting whispers. But a cold dread seeped into her bones. Where was Timmy? "Timmy!" she called, heart racing as she stood up. No answer. Only silence clawed at her mind, raw and oppressive. The emptiness echoed through her, amplifying the fear that twisted in her gut. "I have to find him," she whispered, determination settling in. She began to walk through the blinding light, each step sending waves of unease crashing over her. The brightness felt wrong, a cruel irony against the backdrop of her reality. As she ventured deeper into the expanse, shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, fleeting and grotesque. The mirrors. They had to be here somewhere, remnants of twisted memories waiting to pull her back into the abyss. Timmy! She cried again, her voice echoing, but this time something stirred in the light. A figure emerged, a glimmer of hope wrapping around her heart, but when the figure came into focus, her heart plummeted. It was Mr. Ellis, his smile still wide, yet the edges were grimmer, an unsettling darkness cloaking his presence. "You thought you could escape," he drawled, voice smooth like honey but layered with malice. "Let him go." Lisa's voice trembled with righteous fury. "You want to keep him." But he laughed, a sound that reverberated in her bones, chilling her to the core. "He is one with the shadows now, Lisa, just like you. You cannot escape your fate. It is woven into the very fabric of who you are." With a growl of defiance, she surged forward, a storm of motherly rage roaring within her. "No. I want to let you take my son." Through the flickering brightness, she caught sight of the shadows writhing, twisting behind him, threatening to consume everything in their path. She couldn't yield. "Timmy!" she shouted, forcing all her love, all her strength into that singular call. "Fight! Remember me!" The intensity of her emotions erupted, crackling with a power she had never known. Suddenly, a sliver of light broke through, illuminating Mr. Ellis's face and causing him to falter. His expression contorted in disbelief as the shadows shrank back. "Foolish woman!" His voice shook the ground beneath her. "You think love can conquer darkness? It will only bind you further." But Lisa's heart surged with warmth, the echo of Timmy's laughter wrapped around her soul. "We are love," she declared, her voice rising, crystal clear. "And love conquers all." With that, she charged forward, hands outstretched, ready to shatter whatever darkness loomed. The brightness intensified, pulsating like a living heartbeat as she felt warmth flooding her veins, pushing back the shadows. Behind her, a voice resonated soft, yet fierce. "Mom! I'm here." It was Timmy, his voice breaking through the veil. Turning, she witnessed him emerge from the shadows, bright-eyed and glowing, despite the encroaching darkness. He was no longer ensnared. The bond forged between them was stronger than any fear, any rage. "We are light," Timmy shouted, his small voice threading through the chaos, emboldening those around him. "Together," she urged, embracing him tightly. The shadows screamed, they twisted as the light expanded, pushing back against the encroaching dark. All at once, it erupted, a surge of brightness engulfing the cavern, sweeping away everything in its path. The darkness splintered as laughter rang through the air, fierce and unyielding. Timmy echoed the sound of their joy, a melody forged in defiance. Around them, the expanse fined, merging into one glorious point of radiance, banishing every whisper and shadow, purging Timberwood's darkness forever. With a final burst of light, they felt the world tremble, then silence. They stood, unscathed, bare in a bright new dawn, free of the clutches of fear. Lisa looked up at Timmy. "We're okay?" she asked, breathless that he nodded, the flicker of adventure alive in his eyes, innocence restored. "Yeah, Mom. We're finally free." And as the sun rose over Timberwood, casting the chilling shadows into the past, Lisa felt their spirits entwined, forever illuminated. They were free. So, as this chapter closes, remember the power of love, and how it can conquer even the darkest depths. And now more than ever, we need your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Trust us, you won't regret it. Smash that like button now, the algorithm needs a good kick. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense conclusion, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Thank you for being a part of this incredible journey. Until next time.